Anyway, welcome everyone. We're all delighted to see you. My name is Penny Wright. I want to thank the Southampton Historical Museum, which provides this beautiful setting for our oral history programs. It couldn't be lovelier. And also who provide us with a nice lunch afterwards. And it just so happens we're really lucky. It's kind of chilly out, so we're having soup. We were going to have soup anyway. So we hope you'll stay afterwards. With a combined experience of over 150 years of wisdom about staying married, we are delighted to have six folks here come in to talk about their marriages, their married lives, their etc. And I will introduce them to you right now. To my right, to the left of me, if you're you, is John Holden. And many of you know John. John grew up in Southampton in the family which owned and operated Holden's stationery store. Many remember that. He attended Cornell University and then enlisted in the Army and served between 1943 and 1946 with the 660 Engineer Topographic Battalion, in which his job was editing maps that had been made to help guide troops as they advanced through France. He talked about this in one of our oral history programs, and it's been transcribed. It's very interesting. After his discharge from the Army, John Holden returned to Southampton and went to work for Ted Squires, and they eventually teamed up to become Squires and Holden, a surveying and engineering firm, remaining active and he remained active in overseeing the firm even quite a few years after his retirement. But I think he's officially retired. Right, John? Officially retired. John and Bernice married in 1947, and together they raised 3 children, one of whom, Mary Marin, is here. John has been active over the years in the Presbyterian Church and has served for over 60 years in the American Legion in the annual decoration of veterans' graves. He served for a time as village engineer and also served faithfully on the board of trustees of the Rogers Memorial Library. We're very grateful to John for being here today. Please welcome John Holden. Next to John, fittingly, is Bernice Holden. Bernice, I should mention, I don't think she would mind this, it will be turning 90 this month. Is that correct, Bernice? Yes. Not really a local. She was born in Sag Harbor. Moved to Southampton at the age of 6, where she attended the local schools and graduated with the class of 1942. After graduation, she took a job with the Southampton Coal and Produce. Does this bring back memories? On Main Street, where she stayed for 6 years until Mary, her first child, was born in 1948. During the years, they raised their 3 children, Mary, George, and Lester. She stayed home during the early years, and then she returned to work for more than 20 years as a bookkeeper for John's business. Over the years, Bernice was very active in the Presbyterian Church, serving as a women's circle leader, arranging for receptions, and doing a variety of other jobs. In addition to being the parents of 3, they have 4 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. Please welcome Bernice Holden. Oops, I'm in the wrong order here. Okay. Next to Bernice is Dick Hale. And he was born, actually, in Massillon, Ohio in 1924. And gosh, Dick, that makes you, oh my gosh. Are you 90 this year?
This year, yes.
Not quite yet. Enjoy those babies while they last. He finished high school at age 16 and then went on to attend the University of South Carolina. He owns a he holds a BS degree in mechanical engineering, a BS in electrical engineering. He was a design engineer at GE in Schenectady for 32 years. While he was there, he attended Powell House Quaker Meeting folk dance festivals in Albany, and this will come out a little bit more of the two of these folks here. And he served in the Army from 1943 to 1946 in the South Pacific, specializing in cryptology before being discharged. He also taught international folk dance at the YWCA for more than 30 years. Dick has participated in folk festivals, taught folk dance for the YWCA, been a Boy Scout master, a Presbyterian elder, a deacon and a trustee, and a church choir tenor. His hobbies include motorcycling. Gee, I hope you're not still riding on a motorcycle. Okay. Biking, mountain hiking, dancing, gymnastics. Go Dick. And singing in barbershop quartets. Many wonderful hobbies over the years. And during his retirement, he has participated in contra dancing with LITMA, which is the Long Island Traditional Music Association. He's called square dances for many years. He's volunteered at the Shinnecock Nation Cultural Center and Museum, and he even spent 5 years teaching square dancing at the Southampton High School. Please welcome Dick Hale.
I might make a little adjustment. I was in cryptography when I was in the Army.
Okay.
That was my training.
Did I say cryptology?
But I never got inside of a code room once I got into the war zone.
Okay. Well, this is very mysterious. You'll have to tell us more. Okay. Elizabeth S. Hale is the daughter of the late Chief Thunderbird and Edith Thunderbird, both Shinnecock Indians. Elizabeth attended Riverhead High School, graduating as a salutatorian in the class of 1948. She holds a BS degree from Oneonta Teachers College of SUNY. In 1952, she graduated with honors, and she earned a master's degree in education from New York University. In 2002, Elizabeth was honored by LIU Chancellor Robert Silliman and Trustee Roger Tillis and named a Doctor of Humane Letters. So Dr. Hale, please. Elizabeth Hale had a career in teaching. She's done many things related to education. She actively taught kindergarten through 12th grade, English, social studies, physical ed. She then was an instructor in teacher training at Skidmore College in the undergraduate level, and also has taught teachers at the graduate level. She has also been a teacher with her husband of international folk dance for over 30 years. Elizabeth is an ordained elder in the Presbyterian Church and a founding member of a service mission for Shinnecock families. She's also the current vice president of the Shinnecock Nation Cultural Center and Museum with 12 years on the board of directors. She sat on the formation committee of the Shinnecock Nation Tribal Council and was a member of that council between 1992 and 1998. Elizabeth has been on the Shinnecock Annual Labor Day Powwow Committee since its inception in 1946. She presents the opening prayer dance, the Lord's Prayer, with young Thunderbird family women. That's been a very long activity for Elizabeth. She and Dick have 4 children and 10 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. Please welcome Elizabeth Hale. How are Howard McElroy has a long bio, but we're keeping it short and sweet. Howard grew up in Southampton, graduated in 1951 from high school, attended Harvard College on an NROTC scholarship majoring in international affairs. In 1955, he was commissioned in the U.S. Marine Corps, serving overseas in Japan before resigning as captain to enter the U.S. Foreign Service in 1960. He had a variety of Foreign Service assignments specializing in political, military, and Japanese affairs, and lived in Japan for quite a number of years. How many years? 9. His last assignment was in the Sinai Peacekeeping Force. In 1984, he returned to Southampton and he became the village administrator. For 8 years, kept the village in ship shape. In 1957, he married Susan Bennett, the then Susan Bennett, and they have 2 children and 5 grandchildren, and they now live in Warminster, Pennsylvania. We're really grateful to them for coming back for this event. Please welcome Howard McElroy. And last is Susan McElroy, born Susan Bennett, born in Southampton Hospital, graduated from high school in 1954, a little bit younger there. She worked for my father, Dr. Kenneth Wright, for 3 years when she was in high school, and I have to say, she was, after high school, she was on crutches at that time, and he had a really steep staircase, and she would just fly up that staircase. And one of the bad things that we did as kids, well, we won't talk about that. In 19...
You've been apologizing for years.
we were really little, like 4, and Susan was on her crutches coming down our driveway, and we went and we took her crutches to play with, and we left her stranded in the driveway. We didn't see how really bad that was, but other people did.
Dr. Wright made them all write apology letters. This is the little kids with this kid.
We were just learning how to write. In 1957, Susan and Howard married, and they spent their first year. In fact, I think we'll get to this, but I think they separated to go their separate places the day after they got married. They spent their first year in France. And Susan has basically moved multiple times and worked to support Howard during his Foreign Service career. And they have gathered and maintained, friendships far and wide all over the world. And she also has done community work, including helping establish a summer work program for embassy children in Tokyo. She was on the Friends of the Library Board for 20 years, which she joined not long after returning to Southampton. She's, as all of us who've known Susan, she's had a remarkable effect on those around her, and we're just really happy to have her here. Please welcome Susan McElroy. Okay, now we're going to turn the microphones over to some other folks here. So let's just go down the list here and just to talk about how you 3 couples met. And let's start with Bernice and John. Okay, I'm going to give the microphone to John, and you're going to talk a little bit, both of you, about how you met. Okay.
Okay.
Right up to your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody hearing all right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we knew each other when we were young, or in high school, but she was younger than me, so of course I wouldn't be robbed in the cradle back in his reputation. But after the war, when I came home, I was still single and looking around, and I knew Bernice, and One day, we happened to be crossing the street, coming from opposite directions. She was going to work, I guess, and I was going somewhere, I don't know where. And our eyes met, and she smiled at me, and I smiled back. I said, gee, that gal smiled at me. I'm going to ask her for a date, which I did. And that was the start of the whole thing right there.
Let Bernice tell.
Well, like John said, we knew each other for years, but I was in the 8th grade when he was a senior in high school, so you can tell, since there was no relationship then. And just like John said, one day a lot of the fellows were returning home from the service, so when we were welcoming them, we were all home. And I guess I gave him a good smile from what he said. And that was it. And then he called me up out of the blue and surprised the daylights out of me. But I said, yeah, I'll go to the movies with you. So we did.
You did, okay.
That was the start.
Okay, good. Now, we'll get to courtship in a few minutes, but let's just continue with the how we met. Okay. Go ahead, Dick.
Well, I could be accused of robbing the cradle because my wife is about 6 years younger than I am. But I looked younger at the time. The first time I really recognized her was in a folk dance party. I was a real beginner. I was not what was called a dancer. And she came in an Annie Oakley outfit. She had 2 guns and a cowboy hat and braids. I thought she looked pretty interesting. But I was a real beginner dancer, and she was one of the better dancers in the group. So we didn't get acquainted very well for a while, but I learned to do a dance called the Swedish Humbo. And that's the national dance of Sweden. And a lot of people didn't know it, even though they were experienced dancers. But I learned it in kind of an evening workshop one of the guys put on. And I asked her to dance with me the next time I saw her in a dance setting. And she got a frown a little bit. So I was just a beginner. I wasn't up to that level, but I got by. And we kept carrying on the dancing activity, and we did a little hiking. There were some interesting social groups there with young people in Schenectady, because so many people had come from other locations to work at GE in Schenectady, or teach school in Schenectady. So we did a little hiking in Adirondacks. She climbed Mount Marcy and a few other 4,000-foot mountains. And I will let her take the rest of it.
Yeah, okay. We'll just talk about the meeting part. Yeah.
I did told her, but I was just thinking that coming straight from college and then going to get my first job in Schenectady, New York, I found activities that I would be interested in. And at the YWCA, they had a variety of things, so I started in with the dancing and others. They came there, and I started going out to the young people's groups of the Methodist Church and of the Lutheran Church and of the YMCA. So those were single people events, and Dick was beginning to show up at all these different places. And I kept bumping into the same person, and I told my mother. I said, there's this one man, every time I go across the room, he goes across the room too. She said, well, keep moving. That's how I got the attention of Dick.
Now, Elizabeth, did you not study modern dance also?
I was a student of modern dance at Ted Shawn. I sat at the foot of Ruth St. Dennis for master's classes, so I have a serious modern dance experience.
Was Dick's lack of huge experience a drawback in the early stages?
Now, as long as he could do the hambo, he was all right with me.
Now, they have their own microphone, yeah. All right, Howard.
Okay. I I first noticed Sue in 1950, which was Kiki Day. It was just before she had polio, and I just saw this gorgeous young blonde, and then just noticed her. And then in summers, when I was in college, I was in military training, but one summer I came back, and Sue and I had a couple of dates, nothing more about, nothing beyond that. And then in 1957, as I said, I was in the Marine Corps. I was in Japan. I came back to the States in September of '57, and my brother and I went out to what is now the Coast Grill, just for beer, and there were these two ladies, one of whom was Sue, and we had some dates after. I always say the other woman that was there won the lottery in subsequent years, so I went home with the wrong girl.
Oh, I prefer to think you both won the lottery.
That was Barbara Schneider that was the other girl. And he really did miss out, didn't he?
No. Susan, you were talking about climbing out the window in that place? What? That bar?
No.
Climbing out the window? Or somebody did?
No, somebody else.
Somebody else, sorry. Because they were underage?
Now we want to know.
Yeah, okay. All right, your point of view, Susan.
Well, when I went out, Barbara and I went out to get a beer after the movies, and there was Howard and his brother, and Gary and Ronnie Edwards, everybody, a bunch of kids, and he called me up, and so I said, of course, so we went out, and 3 months later we were married.
3 months later? Okay, so, all right. Okay, we're gonna slow down here a little bit because we're gonna talk about courtship. You don't have to talk a lot because you didn't have a lot much. All right, let's talk a little bit about your courtship and how it progressed. And I want to hear the coconut cake recipe, what you all did for fun and how you spent your time during your courtship. And you tell me a story about the courtship, your grandson? Remember? Okay.
So my grandson, he said, my grandson, the youngest one, he's 23 years old. I told him about this program, and I said, we're going to talk about our courting days. And he says to me, what's courting? Anyway, we didn't have it very exciting. We went to the movies on Saturday night, and then we'd go to Calademus and have a soda or a sundae or something. And then we come back to my house, and one Saturday night I made a nice fresh coconut cake. And back in those days, everything was made from scratch. And I even grated the coconut and made the boiled frosting, and he ate it, and he seemed to enjoy it. So I thought, oh boy. So every Saturday night I made him a fresh coconut cake. Well, we get married, and I'm going to make a fresh coconut cake. He said, oh please, don't make any more coconut. We used to go to the beach in the summer, and we'd usually meet some other couples there, and we would spread out a blanket and play pinochle on the beach, and I don't know, and then the Legion was very active back in those days. They had a lot of parties and dances and dinners, and we'd go there, and we were even in a minstrel show back in those days. And he used to pick me up, and that was kind of like a date, So I'll let him tell you a little bit more if he wants to.
Okay, can you talk a little bit more, Dick? John, about your courtship? What you like to do? Yeah.
Well, she mentioned about the famous coconut
Hold
cake.
a little bit. Yeah. Just hold it near your mouth. Yeah.
Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay. Well, that's one way to get a gal, eat her coconut cake. And once you got it, you can say, when I used to go up to her house, sometimes she had a playful kind of an aunt there, Aunt Bee, and her sister. They used to connive, and I'd go up on a bicycle because I didn't have a car. And when I left to go home, I couldn't find my bike. And they put it up on a tree. So and they always kid me about that. But later on, I was able to get an old Buick, so I was able to use that.
Good.
But we used to do the usual things. Go,
Oh, my goodness.
I'm not telling you anything of it. We had fun. It was a good time. And
John, can I ask you to back up and just talk about when you were in the service, because this is before you got married. You told a kind of a cute story about the USO concert with Bob Hope, and just tell us about that. That was kind of cute.
oh yeah, that was a good thing they did. The USO would come and put on a show down in Paris. We were stationed on the outskirts of Paris. So they'd take us in and to the show. And Bob Hope was on there, and he had, I think his name was Billy Cohn. He was a boxer. And it was one of the troupe, and Jerry Colonna, of course. You remember Jerry Colonna with Bob Hope? And they put on the show. And during the course of the show, a little repartee goes back and forth between Bob Hope and Jerry Cohn. And at some point, Cohn said something to Bob Hope. Bob didn't like it, so Bob says, I got a good mind to punch you in the nose. So Billy Cohn said, well, why don't you? And Bob Hope says, well, I got a good mind. Because I got a lot of laughs there. And then next thing I know is here the telephone rings, and then Hope answers it. Who's this? It's Kelowna. Well, where are you, Kelowna? Oh, I'm on the Atlantic Ocean. What are you doing out there? We're building a bridge across the Atlantic Ocean. Oh, you can't do that, Kelowna. Then he heard this voice of Kelowna. Tear it down, boys. It was all like that. It was a fun evening, and Bob Hope, he was funny.
Now, Dick, you saw, can you tell your?
Well, I didn't see very many USO shows, but I did see Danny Kaye and Lee DeRocha, the Brooklyn Dodgers. And they were a two-person USO show, travel, this in the Philippines. And all Leo talked about was baseball. And Danny was quite a singer and entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
I did think of one other USO show that was interesting. I forgot about it when I was talking to you. Kay Kaiser.
Okay.
It was on a tour in the Pacific.
Okay, so that's big. John, did you and Bernice go out dancing?
Yeah, we did some. Once in a while, but most of the time we played pinochle, I guess. We had a gang there with my brother-in-law, Bill Lucian, and my sister Betty, and Bernice and I, and Johnny Singleton and his wife. Usually the six of us would go out and play pinochle. And we'd go out for dinner, go to the movies, things like that,
And what were the places in Southampton that you'd like to go to for
Well,
dinner?
we used to go to the Bowden Square, which is where the public house is now, and out North Sea to, I think it was called Smitty's, yeah.
Oh, yeah, Smitty's.
Way out there in North Sea. Those are two of the two popular places around. There were others, but I remember them
Okay.
most,
Now, by that time, did you have a car? Talk about your
Yeah, second-hand beat-up old car. It belonged to my mother. She sold it to me for the price of getting it fixed up. I think it cost me $25. And it got it running, but that was an adventure in itself, running that.
That was Bessie, right?
We called it Bessie, yeah. Didn't have a very good radiator, so we had to carry a jug of water with us, fill up the tank every so often.
Okay. All right, let's move on to Elizabeth and Dick talking about your courtship. A little bit.
Well, once we got a little acquainted, we did a lot of dancing together. That was our main social activity. And we went with the hiking clubs and did a little mountain hiking, canoeing, and things like that. Now, along with that period, she was a performance dancer. And she was the partner of a man who had been required to dance to entertain the Nazi troops in Europe, whether it was Austria, Germany, I don't remember, Desher Shimanovic. And he was a furrier. He made all of the costumes she needed, and I saw several of her performances. She was a gypsy, and she did Hungarian gypsy style dancing. And Schenectady was a very international city. They had Hungarian Hall, they had Czechoslovak Sokol Hall, and Italian primarily, the Polish, and so she was quite busy doing performance dancing during our courtship era, but I gradually worked my way.
That's great. It sounds as though, I mean, you landed in Schenectady presumably because of GE, is that correct?
Yes.
But it sounds really lucky that it was a place that had such a lively and wide-ranging cultural life there for the two of you.
It was nice because I first roomed with another guy who had just come there the same weekend I did. He was from Colorado, so he said, this summer I'm going to show you Colorado. So the two of us went out and we climbed 3 of the 14,000 foot mountains.
Wow.
And things like that. And actually he was best man at our wedding.
Okay. What about meeting Elizabeth's family?
I was invited to come down to the powwow in 1956, Labor Day weekend. And I didn't know what to expect. I've never been to an Indian reservation. But I was very well treated, and I got to see the whole behind-the-scenes working of how that powwow was run, because her mother and father and she and her sister were the foremost active people in organizing the powwow, which soon became one of the biggest powwows in the East Coast area. So that was my first
Okay,
visit.
that's great. Let's hear from Elizabeth too. Thank you.
I'll take it right from
Yeah.
there because it was the acid test. As you know, we came from very different backgrounds, and we had so many things that we enjoyed doing together that we wanted to be sure that, we know each other very well. And it was very enjoyable. I met Dick in 1952, and here it was in 1956 when he first got to know my family. And so we said, okay, we'll go to powwow. And of course, I immediately ignored him because I had 70 things to do to get ready for the powwow. The whole community changes. We get into very active roles of preparing food, clothing, publicity for the powwow, entertaining the people who come to participate in it from all different cultures, all over New England, Wampanoags and the Narragansetts and the Mohawks will build the high steel in Brooklyn. Gangs of them jump into the Long Island Railroad, and then I was 16, so I got my, back in the olden days when I was 16, I got the use of the car, and I would go down and meet the train to pick up all the Indians who wanted to come to Shinnecock for the powwow. So that was kind of my role in this, and when Dick came along, he had to just fit in or else, so he carted boxes back and forth, and he came under the jurisdiction of Princess Snowy Donna, my cousin Lois Hunter, and she was she helped to do the MC work at the powwow with my dad, And Dick was in the midst of all that, so I don't know what happened to him, but anyway, he came out okay at the end.
Was your family initially reluctant to welcome, I mean, would
They were so glad to see me get married because I was a school teacher and they thought I'd never get married. Well, I was over 25, I was already an old maid.
that's true. I mean, and those,
Oh, serious. My two younger daughters are married and had little families started, and here I was not even married yet. It was 1957.
yeah.
Sisters, not ours.
I'm gonna say daughters, I'm sorry. Two younger sisters were already married, and my parents kind of gave up on me, but they thought, well, it's okay, they took them over.
You passed the test.
He passed the test,
Good.
and I were very, very conscientious about everything that we said and did, and it was beautiful, and I'm glad I chose well because it lasted.
Great. Let's move on to Susan and Howard now.
Let me sneak in one little
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
On that first powwow, I was
Okay.
hanging out around the powwow stand, and I didn't fit in with the background. So there was a Western Indian, and he had a big headdress on, and White Cloud, I believe was his name. Anyway, he came up and he was talking to her father, and said, you got a nice looking daughter there. Yeah, I'll give you 2 white horses.
Is that true? Is that true?
My father said, you're gonna have to ask her about that. And he turned to me and I said, I have a Ford. I just bought a 56 Ford.
Okay, so yours will be short because you only three months later, boom.
Is it on? It's on. Before I get started, I was assigned to this ship. When I came back from Japan, I was assigned to this cruiser that you see here. And it was getting ready to deploy to the Mediterranean to be the flagship of the 6th Fleet for the next 3 years. So between the time I came back in September and later, I had to go back and forth to Norfolk and to look for training. I re-qualify with a rifle and get some training for gunfire spotting and so forth. So it meant that we had a very sort of spastic courtship. Anyway, it started by my haunting Dr. Wright's office. He must have really been sick and tired of seeing me there. But one of the advantages is I met Penny.
Right, we all met. That's how we
She
met.
was at the
And Dorothy.
and Dorothy back there. And anyway, then I decided to invite Sue to join with me going up to Harvard for a Harvard game and to see my brother. It's going to be a short trip, and maybe Sue should pick it up.
And so then he wanted me to go to the cemetery to meet a man who was, what was his name?
Mr. Erickson.
Mr. Erickson, who was in charge of the Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge. It's a gorgeous cemetery. And that's where he proposed. And I said, no, I wasn't really sure because I get married, you have children. You get married, you have children, and could I really bring up children? Could I raise them? And Howard said, oh, don't worry about that.
Well, you'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. And then, of course, he was going overseas for 3 years, so it was either, are you coming or not? So it was sort of, I'm going, if you want to come along, come. And I did, and his tour was shortened to 1 year. They changed the tours, so.
So the day after, you got married where?
We got married at the Naval Chapel in Portsmouth.
Actually, we didn't get married. We couldn't find anyone to marry us. Howard did it. I went to Corwin's and bought 2 wedding rings. And Howard tried to arrange for a preacher. We couldn't find a preacher on that particular day. We were supposed to get married on the 14th, but the ship was going out to sea, so we got married on the 7th of December. And my sister and my mother and father came with us, and this very nice Baptist minister said, Jean, my sister, do you take Howard? I said, excuse me.
I took a picture of Sue. She had to come down there, that's crossing the Chesapeake on the way down.
Yeah.
To the
To the
wedding?
wedding, yes.
Oh.
It was, really very rushed.
Because he was leaving.
Sue's sister took that snapshot, it's the only newlywed picture that we have, because the ship literally was leaving the next day for sea trials. And when we did the sea trials, the ship went out every day to run various things, and then came back, and rather than tie up at the dock, at the same time they anchored in the roads outside of the port, and that damn ship was anchored within sight of the motel where Sue was holed up. Yeah. And then, Sue was right, I said, meet me in France.
Yeah, that's what happened.
The ship went to sea.
Okay, let's backtrack here, and Elizabeth and Dick talk about your proposal, wedding, etc.
Dick's parents and my parents met on the Friday night of the rehearsal dinner.
Okay. Was that in Southampton?
No. This is all in Schenectady.
Okay.
We met there, and our whole existence for that period of time was in Schenectady, New York, where I was teaching. And Dick was engineering, General Electric. And we had a circle of friends, and we had the folk dancers. They had given us parties. We had 2 or 3 parties because they loved us. Dick and I became the vice president of the folk dance club. And that was very maneuvered by our friends. I can see that. Trying to get us together.
Postscript.
Yes, postscript.
A little bit explanation of my proposal, because Mount Armored Cemetery is one of the most beautiful places on the East Coast. It was the very first landscape cemetery in the United States, and if you're ever in Boston, you ought to go out there. It is breathtaking. And as an undergraduate in good weather, that's what I studied. I would go out there, and it's
Very quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet, yeah, and well, there are a lot of bird watchers and lovers because it's so beautiful. But anyway, in the course of that studying out there, I met this guy Erickson, and we became friends, and that's who I was looking for when it struck me that.
Was he dead or was he alive?
I thought a good idea to propose.
Okay, you are vindicated now.
The cemetery.
Okay.
We'd go to the cemetery. We had to go to the party. But it belonged to all those different clubs, I said, singles clubs. And they had a Christmas party. And Dick and I had decided that we would get married. And so at Christmas, I wore a black velvet top and a white, I don't know, I can't even explain it. It was a very pretty dress. And we went to the party, and Dick said, we sat in the back seat with a couple who had taken us, and he handed me a box, and I opened it, it had a diamond ring in it. And he said, let's announce our engagement to everybody tonight. And I said, okay. So we got engaged in the back seat. But we were married the next Easter.
Oh, that's nice. And no, so where was the wedding then, Dick?
The wedding was in Schenectady in the Presbyterian Church. We were the first ones to use their fellowship hall. It was a 2-story space, and we might even have some pictures of it. We were doing that wedding dance and such in that hall. That was the inaugural use of that hall.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was very nice.
And were there people from both of your families?
Yes, it was the last time that my complete family has been together.
Wow.
My mother and father came up from South Carolina,
Okay.
and my brother and both sisters came from wherever they live, I had to think a little bit to figure out where they came from. But that's the last time that family had been completely together.
Wow.
Now, I talked to my mother on the telephone about her. She had never met her. But she was pretty pleased with it.
Well, how could she not be? So it sounds like you had a really nice wedding.
Lovely,
Yes.
yes, a beautiful one. We had, well, we gave it ourselves, that's the whole thing, we organized it, and that's why it was well organized. Because we didn't have everybody's opinion, we just made up our own minds what we were gonna do and when. So, we had a lot of church people, obviously, very busy at Easter time, but we slid it in, and I had to tell the priest that, that Lent is over on Friday, and on Holy Saturday, there isn't anything, and then on Easter Sunday is a big celebration, so we're gonna get married on Saturday. And I was teaching school, so I had a strict schedule, and I didn't see any reason why we couldn't be married on Saturday. And I told a little church law around there, and everybody got over it and could over it. And we used the church, they were decorating beautifully at the Methodist church, and so I had the pictures taken there, the sacred dance that I had to do there on that day. How we had time enough to get married. It was just a wonderful thing.
Go ahead, Dave. I wanted to just add a totally unrelated thing, talking about churches and marriages and ministers. That I was talking to Ann Porter once about her marriage to Fairfield. And she told me that she and Fairfield met with the minister who was going to marry them, and they kept taking out every reference to religion. And finally the minister looked at them and said, "Should I just wear a business suit?" Okay, so go ahead here.
Well, we weren't of the same denomination. She was Episcopalian and I was Presbyterian. So we talked it over with the Presbyterian minister, and he thought everything was fine, but when she let her family know that we had planned to get married, we were visiting Riverhead where they lived, and I think before 8 o'clock Saturday morning, we'd come down Friday night from Schenectady. The priest was at the door, Father Benz was at the door, wanted to speak to Elizabeth. And they had a big discussion about whether Lent was over yet or not. And he said that you will no longer be a member in good standing. You cannot leave the Episcopal Church. Once you're a member, you cannot leave it. But you will be a member in not in good standing. You will not be qualified to take communion or participate in church activity. He got over it, you know.
Howard, what were you going to add?
Well, a little small town footnote, because when word got around that Sue was going to marry me, the Episcopal priest went to,
Father Hawk?
we won't name names.
Oh, sorry.
It was not Father Hall.
Okay.
Anyway, he went to Sue's mother and asked him whether she knew that Sue was getting ready to marry a Catholic.
Which is really funny.
Which is really funny in the circumstances.
Because Howard was Catholic.
No.
Isn't it?
Well, my reaction,
The notion that anybody would do that is just sort of
Yeah.
strange.
Foreign.
that was my reaction, because I said, your mother and father, and my mother and father, are the only people that I would listen to with any objections of any kind.
Right.
And they are in favor of our marriage, and they know what they're talking about. We're gonna go with them, and nobody else matters to us at all.
Good for you. Good for you.
We have very many lines to cross, and we very carefully cross all of them.
Because it would not have been legal for us to marry in South Carolina.
You mentioned that. That's talk about hard to really think about, actually. And you would have been arrested in South Carolina.
When I was in Marine, in Japan, when a young Marine decided to marry a Japanese woman, we had to call them in and counsel them that and a lot of the Marines are from the South, that the wedding was going to be, the marriage was going to be illegal. And then to tell you about the attitude in those days, the next day they were transferred somewhere else.
We
Come away.
We forget, but, well, you folks were talking about in high school, when you were in high school, girls couldn't take physics. There were a lot of things that were pretty different, weren't there? All right, let's hear about John and Bernice's wedding, which maybe was more smooth sailing.
Your wedding. Your engagement and your wedding.
Well, I gave, she accepted the ring and.
Well, wait a minute. When did you ask the question? Hold it up to your, yeah.
Okay, I think it was outside the Legion building, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. She said yes, so I felt relieved then and said, okay. Then we decided to get married, we picked the date out, and we wanted a simple marriage. So we arranged and had it in New York City. And my brother-in-law, Bill Lujan, lived there and had an apartment. So we arranged to have the affair there, and he put on the reception, and the immediate family was there. And as a matter of fact, when Bill heard about this, and saw in the paper, I guess he's living down in Florida, he called me up, and it was a while back now, he called early in the year, and he said, gee, mention about how I mixed the drink for the toast of the bride and groom. So I said, okay, how'd you do it? He said, well, I didn't have a cocktail shaker, you know, to mix drinks in. So I had to go get a bucket, and mix it in the bucket. And for some reason, that's how he remembered. That was always stuck in his mind. I don't remember that.
What was the bucket used for?
I don't know.
Oh, but wasn't it a farm?
I assume it was a good, respectable bucket. Anyway, knowing him, he was a dentist and so forth, so he was a sanitary guy. But anyway, they put on a good reception for us, and we had a fine time, and then we were on our way on our honeymoon after that.
Where'd you go, John? Or should Bernice talk about your honeymoon? Should we give
Want to do
them?
that?
Yeah.
We went to Quebec, but on the way up we stopped at different places. We stopped at, he took me to Ausable Chasms. We went down there, and there was a little stream there, and took a little boat ride, and little did I know we had to go over rapids. Oh my gosh, that really did me in.
So this is going to be a short marriage?
And we stopped at Lake George, we spent a little time there, we went to Saratoga Springs on the way up, and then eventually we landed in Quebec, and we stopped at Montreal, I think, first. And we just had a good time, that's all.
Nice. Were you driving Bessie?
No.
She was parked at home. My mother let me use her car, a nice Packard. And did she say that they didn't have a hotel, well, we couldn't get a hotel, I think it was it Montreal?
Yeah.
That we got what they call a tourist home, yeah. First time I heard of a tourist home, it was nice though. And we stayed there that night. Then we went on to Quebec, I think. And I don't know if they stayed at the Hotel Frontenac or not. The big one there. I think we did, as a matter of fact. And then we went over through Vermont, New Hampshire, and spent nights on the road there. And through Boston, and back to Providence, and then we took the ferry ride back across to Greenport, I think, and then back home. And it was about a week, I think. Then we rented an apartment in Dr. Foss's place next to the old town hall, and that's where we started off married life.
Sounds good. Howard, you had something that you were gonna add here.
Well, one thing that was missing from our wedding was that it was on December 7th.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that.
You know, a Japan military specialist, it's kind of ironic. And years later, at Ambassador's dinner, I was seated next to, because of my military connections, seated next to a retired Navy admiral, Japanese Navy, who had been a young commander at the time of Pearl Harbor. And he was Minoru Genda, who was actually the officer that planned the attack on, he was the plans officer for Yamamoto. And so I told him about our wedding date. And he said, it seems as your operation turned out better than mine. We did have a very short honeymoon, 3 or 6 months later or something. The ship went into Mallorca.
Oh, it did.
And so a week's leave, that's a great place to have a honeymoon, let me tell you.
When you two were in, okay, your boat was in Italy. The story of Susan's,
Oh, of our family?
no, of you being hoisted over to,
Oh,
tell that story.
What story is this?
Howard
you
knows.
know, there actually, you know, a lot of adversity wearing braces. Leads to lots of complications and that we dealt with. It's really weird that Sue said she was afraid of the implications of raising a family, because as near as I can figure out, it's the last time she was ever afraid of anything. Well, anyway, when I was on this, the ship was located in Villefranche. We couldn't tie up. It was moored out in the harbor. And the admiral wanted Sue to attend one of his parties that he had up on the forecastle. They call them forecastle frolics. Only the Navy can have a party without booze. But anyway, the crew was on the fantail of the ship, after the ship, watching the movies on the screen, which is held up by the derrick that you can see at the rear of the Des Moines. When all of a sudden, down comes the screen, the sailors are booing, and up comes this gorgeous blonde in a owner's chair. No life jacket or anything.
That was Susan being
That was
hoisted.
Susan being hoisted aboard. So frolics.
Nice story. All right, we could go on much longer, but we don't have much longer, so we're gonna ask you just a couple of questions. We can sort of go down the. I want to ask you if there's any advice that you would give to young people getting married, since you have obviously had long and successful marriages. What kind of advice would you give to people getting married today? Thanks.
Well, I'd say, look at it as an adventure, and always look at it as a matter of give and take. You both have to give some and take some. It's always, the road isn't always smooth, but it's mostly good.
Good.
And learn to smile. And
Whether you mean it or not.
maybe what worked for me was that first smile I got from Bernie.
Okay, we'll go on.
Well, I guess, like John says, it's a lot of give and take. We've been married now for 66 years, and we're here on 67. So, you know, it's well, just give and take, I guess. We just got on, and yeah. And I heard a little saying, marriage is like a deck of cards. It starts out with the heart and diamonds, and ends up with the spades and irons. We use the spades to dig in the garden, and John used clubs when he played golf. He played golf. So we're still on the heart
That's great.
end of it.
Okay, so Dick and Elizabeth.
I would say get well acquainted before you decide to get married. And For the men,
There's always rule breakers in every group.
but when she asks you any question, be sure to say, yes, ma'am.
Right. Oh, dear, it's hard to give advice because things change sometimes and everything around is so different from when we were growing up and coming into that situation. But I think that you follow your heart and you look both ways, and caution, and you are very concerned about each other's well-being. That's what you have to look out. Is the other one doing okay? Well, then it must be all right.
Good. That's a nice way to put it. Howard?
Well, some of you probably know I'm not very religious, but I consider marriage a sacrament and that people have to take it serious. That's the first step. And then it's a serious commitment. On the other hand, Dick touched on it. The first rule is every happy marriage is based on a husband who does what he's told.
Oh my God.
I think compromise and stop texting would be the way to say it, because I don't know if people are going to be able to talk with each other, so they just text. Two kids sit next to each other and they're texting.
It does make you a little bit sad.
It is, yeah.
I was listening to one woman, she was asked the key to the success of her marriage, and she said one word. They said if you had to say in one word, she said, overlook. All right, so Susan, and all of you folks, would you make the same choice? Are we out of film here? Are we out of time? We're out of time. No. We're not. We're going to keep this.
Yes.
Okay, I asked that because I have known you well enough to admire the devotion that you all show to your mates and to congratulate you on the wonderful road that you all have walked down successfully together. And I want to thank you on behalf of all of us for coming in to talk about it a little bit. Thank you.